Friday, 5 p.m. Jerusalem time. From NBC Studios. This is NBC Journal with Bassam Zahir and Sana Abu Samra.
Mohammed Shtayeh named by President Abbas as new Prime Minister.
Al-Malki urges Arabs to confront countries willing to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's state only of the Jewish people.
Hello and welcome again. A Palestinian who was brought today to hospital in the northern West Bank city of Silfit with critical gun wounds to the heart from a bullet fired by Israeli occupation forces has died of his wounds, said the Ministry of Health. Soldiers had raided the city earlier today to see street camera recording and clashes broke out with local residents, said reports. The army opened fire at a stone-throwing youth, fatally injuring Mohammed Jamil Shaheen, 23, from Silfit in the heart, who was shot by a live bullet.
A Palestinian identified as Yasser Fawzi Shweiki, 27, was shot dead by Israeli soldiers in the southern West Bank city of Hebron, according to Wafa correspondent. Soldiers opened fire at the Palestinian alleging who attempted to attack them with a knife near the illegal settlement of Kiryat Arba and killed him, said the correspondent, adding that he was left on the ground bleeding as Palestinian ambulances were not allowed to provide him any assistance.
A Palestinian young man succumbed Monday evening of wounds he had sustained from Israeli gunfire earlier this month to the east of Al-Breij refugee camp in the central besieged Gaza Strip. Medical sources confirmed that Musa Muhammad Musa, 23, a resident of the central Gaza Strip town of Deir al-Balah, succumbed to his injuries he sustained after being shot by Israeli forces during a protest to the east of Al-Breij on March 1st. Musa was the second Palestinian to succumb his wounds during the last few days.
After Israeli police shot down of Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, Muslims hold prayers outside the gates. Defying Israeli police measures at Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem's Old City, particularly closing the gates for Muslim worshippers, prayers were held after this afternoon outside the closed gates, said witnesses. Dozens of Palestinians gathered at Bab al-Asbat, one of the main gates to Al-Aqsa compound, the third holiest site in Islam, and held one of the 5 daily prayers there as Israeli police stood watching while keeping the gates to the Muslim holy compound closed. Worshippers vowed to continue to hold all prayers outside the gates until the police reopen them and allow free access for worshippers inside the compound.
President Mahmoud Abbas called for Fatah Central Committee member Mohammed Shtayeh to form the new Palestinian government. Presidential spokesman Nabil Abu Rudaina noted President Abbas received Shtayeh at his office and asked him to form the 18th government that would replace him for outgoing government of Rami Hamdallah, which was resigned on January 29, but continued as caretaker government. In the letter of designation to Shtayeh, President Abbas said the mission of the new government will be to speed up reuniting to the West Bank and Gaza Strip, as well as to work toward holding legislative elections in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip, to strengthen democracy. Shtayeh was born in the village of Tel near Nablus in 1958 and got his undergraduate degree at Birzeit University and his doctorate degree in economics from University of Sussex in the United Kingdom. He also served as director of the Palestinian Economic Council for Development and Reconstruction, and as Minister of Housing and Construction. He was elected to Fatah Central Committee in 2009 and again in 2016. Shtayeh will have 3 weeks to form a new government, which could be extended by 2 more weeks if necessary.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates Riyad al-Maliki called today on Arab countries to take all practical measures to confront any country that recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He urged the Arab countries to implement the resolutions of the Arab League Council at various levels to take all measures necessary to confront any decision by any state that recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel or moved its embassy to the city. Al-Malki's comments came during the speech at the 151st session of the Arab League Council at the level of foreign ministers, which was held in Cairo. The minister said that Palestinians are currently defending Al-Aqsa Mosque against Israeli attempts to control parts of the holy site, adding that the occupation authorities believe that the time and place are proper to divide the mosque.
Finance Minister Shukri Bshara said that an emergency budget based on rationing will be put into effect until the end of the clearance money crisis with Israel. He said during a press conference in Ramallah that President Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian leadership have agreed to his call for an emergency budget. This means dispersing the cash we have and working to secure the delaying commitments. We will pay what is available in accordance with a fair and equitable plan, including the adoption of the best way of dispersing operating expenses without affecting the basic services provided to citizens, he said. Bshara explained that the national team for the crisis management that includes a member of cabinet ministers, members of Fatih Central Committee and the head of the intelligence Majid Faraj will make its decision every month based on developments in the crisis. He said that while salaries will be paid at only 50% of their value of this month will increase to 60% and maybe 70% during Ramadan, which starts earlier May as the leadership expects the financial crisis to last for at least 5 months.
An Israeli Action and Implementation Agency informed a Palestinian family residing in Silwan, a neighborhood in occupied East Jerusalem, that it has to leave its home and property by the end of this month and turn it over to a Jewish settler group, according to Wadi Hilwa Information Center. It said an Israeli court gave the inheritors of Maryam Abu Zuair, who currently live in the house and composed of a woman and her 4 children, until the end of March to leave their home following a petition by El Ad Settler Group, which, according to the center, presented forged documents to claim ownership of the Abu Zuair property. Wadi Hilwa Information Center quoted Nihad Siam, one of the inheritors, stressing that the family is going to appeal to High Court to stop the eviction proceedings until the Jerusalem District Court looks into its appeal against the eviction.
At least 5 Palestinians were injured by Israeli occupation forces on Friday during clashes which erupted in the village of Beit Sira, to the west of Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, local sources said. Israeli occupation forces fired rubber-coated rounds at Palestinian protesters who were demonstrating to call on Israeli authorities to hand over the withheld bodies of slain Amir Darraj and Yusuf Ankawi, who were shot dead by the forces last week in the nearby village of Kufr Nameh.
Israeli settlers attacked Palestinian vehicles driving on a northern West Bank road, according to Ghassan Douglas, an official monitoring Israeli settlement activities in the north of the West Bank. Douglas reported that Jewish settlers set tires on fire to block a major road between Nablus and Jenin and attacked Palestinians commuting on that road, where an Israeli settlement was once located and evacuated in 2005. He added that settlers have escalated their attacks against Palestinians and their property in that area. Israeli settlers' violence against Palestinians and their property is routine in the West Bank and is barely prosecuted by Israeli authorities. Settlers' violence includes property and mosque arsons, stone throwing, uprooting of crops and olive trees, attacks on vulnerable homes, among others.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was reported as saying today that he allows money into Gaza in order to keep the Palestinians divided. The Israeli English language daily, the Jerusalem Post, quoted a source at the Likud faction meeting saying Netanyahu defended his policy to allow millions of dollars of Qatari funds into Gaza as part of a border strategy to keep Hamas and the Palestinian Authority separated. Netanyahu told his faction that whoever is against the Palestinian state should be for transferring the funds to Gaza because maintaining a separation between the West Bank, controlled by the Palestinian Authority, and Gaza, controlled by Hamas, helps prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state, according to the Jerusalem Post.
Israeli warplanes fired 4 missiles at a site east of Khan Yunis in the south of the Gaza Strip, according to Wafa correspondent. He said an Israeli drone and an F-16 fighter fired the missiles at the site, which was totally destroyed and caused damage to nearby property. Israeli warplanes have carried out several bombings over the Gaza Strip during the night and early morning hours, said the correspondent, causing panic among the population but no injuries.
Israeli occupation forces and the Israel Civil Administration cut the water supply of 2,600 of Palestinians living in communities in Bardallah village in the Jordan Valley, northern occupied West Bank. Mu'taz Bsharat, an official who monitors settlement activity in Tubas, Jordan Valley, told Ma'an that Israeli occupation forces cut off water supply for 60% of residents of the Bardallah village, amounting to 2,600 people. Israeli occupation forces also cut off water supplies for 1,800 to 2,000 dunums of Palestinian agricultural lands that must be continuously irrigated. Bsharat added that the Israeli claims that water sources in the area are illegal, adding that this cannot be true because the water comes from wells in the village and inside Palestinian lands.
Indonesia announced a $1 million contribution for Palestinian refugees, according to a press release by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East. It said Indonesian Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi paid a visit to UNRWA headquarters in Amman, Jordan, where she met with Commissioner General Pierre Krenboil, during which Marsudi announced a $1 million contribution for Palestine refugees, representing a five-fold increase of Indonesia's support to UNRWA. Palestine is at the heart of Indonesia's foreign policy and in the heart of Indonesian people, said Marsudi. I know that UNRWA is facing another difficult year, so I wanted to come to you to show Indonesia's support, hoping that this will attract increased support by other countries.
A U.S. appeal court has reopened a billion-dollar lawsuit against Jewish American tycoon Sheldon Adelson, which seeks to hold him and more than 30 others liable for war crimes in support of Israel's illegal settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit voted unanimously in favor of reopening the case, arguing that a federal district judge, and concluding wrongly in August 2007 that all of the plaintiffs claimed raises political questions that could not be decided in U.S. court, Yannit has reported. At the time, the district judge claimed that the lawsuit raised political questions over which the court had no authority, including who has sovereignty over the occupied West Bank, occupied East Jerusalem, and the besieged Gaza Strip.
The government of Japan has contributed an additional $7 million to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East, said the UN agency in a statement. On this important contribution, $4.5 million will enable UNRWA to continue providing healthcare for Palestine refugees most in need of assistance in Lebanon. It will support hospitalization to 6,000 Palestine refugees from Syria and multipurpose cash assistance to those displaced to Lebanon.
The Geneva-based Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor and Richard Falk, former UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights for the Palestinian territories, today called on the German authorities to stop prosecuting 3 activists because of the pro-Palestinian activity. Euromed said in a press release that it is following with deep concern the German authorities' holding of the 3 activists from the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement because of a lawsuit made by the German-Israeli Friendship Society and the Humboldt University of Berlin. The BDS is a Palestinian-led movement for freedom, justice, and equality for the Palestinian people within the Palestinian territories, Israel, and elsewhere in the diaspora, said the Euromed. The trial of the 3 activists is an infringement on the activists' right to freedom of expression and peaceful protest, adding the Euromed Monitor, calling on the German authorities to ensure fair trial.
Israeli police prevented call for prayer from Al-Aqsa Mosque, Islam's third holiest site, and attacked Palestinians who gathered outside Bab al-Asbat, one of the main gates of Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in the old city of Jerusalem, to perform the evening prayer after police had closed all gates to the mosque and prevented worship inside the Muslim holy compound, said witnesses. People have been holding prayers since noon outside the gates to the mosque compound after police had attacked worshippers inside it and pushed them out before closing the gates and preventing freedom of worship inside it, alleging that people had set fire to a police station inside the compound.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israel is not a state of all citizens, in a reference to the country's Palestinian Arab population, adding that all citizens, including Arabs, had equal rights. However, in his comments on Instagram, Netanyahu referred to a deeply controversial law passed last year declaring Israel the nation-state of the Jewish people. Israel is not a state of all its citizens, he wrote in his response to criticism from an Israeli actor, Rotem Silla. The law passed last summer downgraded the Arab language from an official language to a language with a special status, making Hebrew the only official language, and stipulated that Israel is the historic homeland of the Jewish people, and they have an exclusive right to national self-determination in it. And now moving on to An-Najah National University News.
An-Najah's graduate wins Best Clinical Research Presentation. The Palestinian researcher Nimr Adib won the Best Clinical Research Presentation in Louisiana Neurosurgical Society on its 34th annual meeting. Nimr Adib Abu Shahab, who is a neurosurgical resident in the United States, has been working on his research on post-surgical blood thinners, which are usually used before surgeries related to brain and neuroanatomy. The findings of his research led to major changes in the treatment methods of this problem in the United States and Canada, especially after publishing the research in Stroke magazine. The research has already won the best research in the annual meeting of the American Association of Neurosurgical Surgeons last year. Dr. Adib presented use of platelet function testing before pipeline immobilization device placement. Professor An-Najah, acting president of An-Najah, congratulated Dr. Adib for being awarded the best clinical research presentation and expressed his pride in An-Najah's Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences graduates and said that his great achievement is a testament to the hard work of An-Najah's academic staff and their determination to achieve an international reputation for delivering outstanding outcomes for students.
An-Najah participates in a 3-day workshop on TAP project to provide capacity building on online curriculum design, a 3-day workshop on TAP project transforming assessment practices in large enrollment first-year education was implemented from 30th January to the 1st of February 2019 in Athens, Greece. The main emphasis of the workshop highlighted developing curriculum mapping with online content creation of the intellectual property laws and open source material use. 12 participants from 4 Palestinian universities in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, including An-Najah National University, participated in the training. The participants were trained on recoding, editing, and production options, which can support redesigning a full range of lessons and activities. At the end of the workshop, the participants requested to follow up training on instructional video production tools to be organized in Birzeit University in the West Bank and the University College of Applied Science in Gaza.
These are the news of the week. Thank you for watching. For more details, visit our website nn.ps.
See you next Friday.